Hi, I'm Dr. John Demartini, and you are watching the Human Potential Chiropractic channel.
Welcome to Human Potential Chiropractic. This is Dr. Rodrigo Imana. And, you know, when I was born a preemie, and at the time they pronounced me clinically dead. Obviously, that's not the case. I survived. And throughout my life, I always wanted to know what the meaning of life is. Can you expand the expression of life with a human being? And I became a chiropractor. Throughout that journey, I've met wonderful human beings, and I was blessed really to have met someone who changed my life, someone who I look up to, someone who's inspired me, and someone who I know is changing the world. And it is really an honor for me, and I'm very blessed to be sitting next to him today. So if you guys will welcome Dr. Demartini. Thank you so much really for taking the time.
Thank you.
I think we met, about 8 years ago or so. Yeah, I think it was back in 2008, so more than that. And this was in chiropractic school. One of the things that always inspired me, the whole concept of I align the spine and mind with the mind, I make people feel fine, I practice galactic chiropractic, and I only accept space cases. That's always inspired me, so I say that now. And but I wanted to kind of hear from you again, like how would you express that, and why did you use those words, and that whole concept?
I felt that a spine, as a chiropractor, that was aligned and was maximizing its flexibility and its potential for movement, enhance people's lives. So aligning the spine and the mind with the divine meant balance. And so if I could balance out the mind and the body, I felt I was going to bring greatness to people's lives. So I said to myself, I align spines and minds of the divine to help people feel fine. It was just for fun. It was an entertainment, but it also had deeper meaning. I do galactic chiropractic and only accept space cases. That was basically said that I wanted to reach the world. And I was taught that if I want to make a difference in myself, I need a vision as big as my family. If I want to make a difference in my family, I need a vision as big as my community. If I want to make a difference in my community, I need a vision as big as my city. If I want to make a difference in my city, number one in the city, I need a vision as big as my state. If I want to have a state influence, I need a vision as big as my nation. If I want to have a national influence, I need a big global vision. And if I want to make a difference across the globe, I need an astronomical vision. And so I just thought of galactic chiropractic because I wanted to be able to have a global influence. I want to have patients around the globe. Mm-hmm. In my office, I had clocks from all over the world as a metaphor and a reason to attract patients globally. And I was blessed to have patients come from all over the world. And so I really believe that. So I did that as a way of reminding me that I'm here to serve people all over the world. I also realized that some of the most difficult patients were yourself. The second most difficult patients is your spouse. The third most difficult patients is your family. Fourth most difficult patients is your extended family and friends. But the farther in distance they came, the greater the patient. So I did that because I wanted to have global patients so I could have the greatest experience and the greatest transformation. So me saying I align spines and minds with the divine, making people feel fine, and only accept space cases and have galactic chiropractic was a very deep, meaningful thing to help me grow my practice and to serve more people and to expand my potential in life. So I've been saying that all these years myself.
I love it. And I know a part of your vision is to then be in space, speaking down to earth, right? And I've always kind of visualized that, meditate on that. That's always been great.
Well, in 2004, I flew from my ship in Venice to the Mojave Desert to be there for the launch of Spaceship One. And I saw Paul Allen's Spaceship One with Burt Rutan and everything go into space. And I was there, so I did get my ticket to space, you might say. I'm waiting for Spaceship Two to take us there. So when that occurs, I'll be up there and I will do one of my goals. So.
The manifestation formula I always share with my patients constantly, and I took the liberty to actually add another A, which in this case get an adjustment, get a chiropractic adjustment to make sure you manifest within first, and then for that to be expressed. Many of my patients always have a lot of transformational experiences after an adjustment, and I have them meditate afterwards. Sometimes they get emotional. You had mentioned a lot of correlations when you were in practice, when people wasn't just a pain thing. You know, people saw their finances sometimes be influenced by that. And can you elaborate on your experiences with that and recall?
The very first week I opened my practice in 1982, I had a lovely girl who was 27 years old come to my practice. And she was a very, very ambitious financial broker. There was a company called E.F. Hutton at the time, that's who she worked for. She was sitting on a phone with a headset leaning over like this all day. And her neck was literally just spasmed by the end of the day. And she called hundreds of people on a Rolodex and was just sitting there like this, talking to them all day. And she couldn't, function hardly because her neck was just cramped. So I did an examination with her when she came in and told her that she did have problems in her neck because of this. It's literally deforming her neck, and that I could help her. So she came in, I did for a week, and I did adjustments on her. And then she not only felt better, but she noticed that she was performing better at work. And the week that I did that, and the following week, she had the biggest performance she's ever had. So then she disappeared for about a week or two. And after that, and then came back 3 weeks later, about 3 weeks. And she said, Dr. Demartini, is it even remotely possible that your adjustments of the spine can increase the productivity and outcome from my work? And I said, I have seen that over and over again with patients, and without a doubt. And she says, then I would like to not only follow the protocol that you've asked me to do, because I kind of swayed from it, but I realized now that I had my biggest performance, and as the days went on after that, it started going down again. I would like to come in, not just because of my stiffness in the neck, but because I want to increase my performance, because it was a drastic difference. So she became a patient for 34 years now to chiropractors, not just to me, but because she moved to a different city. And she has maximized her performance, and her income tenfolded as a result of the consistent application of chiropractic adjustments. And I moved my office, believe it or not, one floor above hers on the 52nd floor of the same building where she practiced her work for many years. And she was regularly in there, and she came there. And if we found subluxations and bones out of place, irritating nerve causing problems, we adjusted it. If we didn't, we would just refine it. We were using it to monitor her performance. And she came in consistently to maximize her performance. Then I had a lady who was attempting to get pregnant. And no matter what she was doing, it was not working. And they were looking at artificial insemination at the earliest stages, when it was not as common as it is today. And they were frustrated because they felt she was expecting herself to get pregnant, but her husband was wanting a natural child, and there was a lot of emotion about it. But she wanted to have a child. And she came in because of her pelvis, there was pain in her pelvis. And I adjusted her for about the first 3 weeks of the care. I actually had her on a more longer term plan. I adjusted her. In the first 3 weeks, her pain levels went down. We repositioned her uterine position because we went through soft tissue and repositioned it. And she was able to get pregnant naturally. That was extremely powerful for her. She felt that she was going to let her husband down if she had to do it artificially. But she felt that she actually was a mother because of chiropractic. And I've seen that. I had another lady who was having blindness coming and going. She'd see it and she'd lose her sight, and see and lose her sight. And we traced it down in the history to every time she was having her period, she would get emotional and her jaw was tightening up and her cranium was tightening up, the muscles were tightening up, and it was causing a change in the gear movement of the skeletal, the bones in the skull. And it was blocking the optic nerve. And what we did is we adjusted her upper cervical spine. We did some cranial work, chiropractic cranial work, relieved some of the tensions in the muscles, helped her perceive some of the stresses that she was having, because as you know, chiropractors also give gems of advice. Right. And she never had any problems with her eyes. And I saw her until I moved to my other office. I saw her for many years. Never had a problem with her eyes again. Her cycles didn't affect it. I've also had a man who had diabetes, and it was severe, and it was advanced. And it was affecting his eyes, it was affecting the ulcerations in his leg, and they were planning on literally amputating one of his legs. And the other one was going to follow suit soon after. They figured within a year they'd have to amputate the other one because it was getting ulcers and it wasn't healing. And I started to, he came into me looking as a last resort, trying everything he could with medicine. It didn't work. And he came to me and he says, "Do you think you can help me?" I says, "I don't know. I've helped a lady who had diabetes before, and she's now functioning, and she kind of recovered from part of it. I don't know. Let's see what we can do." And I put him on a 6-month program. I put him on an exercise program. I put him on a change in diet, and I adjusted him 3 times a week and 2 times a week for all those months. And at the end of 6 months, I couldn't see any real change. And I was about to dismiss him because I didn't feel like I was making a progress. And as I was about to dismiss him, he said, "You're not planning on dismissing me, are you?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am, because I can't feel that it's justified for me to continue if I'm not getting results." And he looked at me, and I won't forget this. He said, "6 months ago, I came into your office, and they were about to remove my legs. That was my prognosis. 6 months later, I still have my legs. Please do not discontinue the care. Please don't discontinue the care." I said, "Okay." Well, in the next 6 months, his legs healed up. And it was my surprise too, because I realized that I really didn't give it a long enough term vision of what it was going to take to get this result. But 6 months later, his legs healed up, and he never had to remove his legs. So when I saw that, I realized that I was probably shortchanging some of my patients by making the care too short. And I allowed myself to serve more people by allowing more extended care and making sure they really got the results. I had a boy who was in a coma, come out of a coma in my hands.
Carlos, yeah.
Carlos. I had a boy who was blind in one eye and also had a deformed leg because of an injury, being thrown 70 feet in the air of a car accident. And we helped him restabilize his pelvis, and he was able to walk and see again. Another boy that had a paralysis from the neck down, literally quadriplegic. And I saw him walk in my office and move his arms and legs again. So I've had many people. I've had people that had migraines for years, and because of chiropractic, those migraines dissolved. So there's, as you know, amazing things comes in a chiropractic office, and people sometimes come there not as a first resort, sometimes as a last resort. Ideally, it would have been the first resort, but they don't know. They're not educated. But I've seen some amazing things that they consider miraculous. I call it the power of what happens when you adjust the spine. But yeah, some amazing stuff come in. I could go on and on for probably hours about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And it's a concept, that chiropractic should really be considered a standard procedure for the human experience. And I had that quote actually from one of your talks, and I had it right behind my card. And now it's evolved to maximizing the human experience. So part of this whole concept of experiencing symptoms and symptomatology and how that relates, and I know this might be a long question or a long answer, the epigenetic way of how this manifests and how the correlation of a symptom may relate to your life, right? Digestion, holding on to something, and not if you're having constipation, things like that. And it's something that I try to always coach my patients to be in tune with their body, because it's guiding them towards their areas that they may be blocking in their life. Did you have some experiences with that? Any examples?
Yes, I considered my clinic a research center also. And so I did quite a bit of research on people's psychology as well as their physiology, because I knew that some people were having stresses in their life and it was perpetuating spinal problems and physiological problems. And so I started paying attention to that, and I definitely found correlations. I found sometimes some of the actually genetic defects in the spine I was tracing back that were emerging to events that were occurring even in the womb, while they were in the womb, between the parents and family. So I definitely there's definitely a mind-body relationship and psychology and physiology correlations. But when it comes to epigenetics, each individual has a set of values, a set of priorities they live their life by, things that are most important to least important in life. Whenever they perceive that their values are supported, their parasympathetic nervous system comes online. And whenever they perceive that their values are challenged, their sympathetic nervous system comes online. And these are complementary opposite expressions of the nervous system that keep our physiology in check and balanced. So whenever we have an imbalanced perception, we can imbalance our physiology and we create symptoms, not only genetically, but epigenetically to the genes. And the expression of genes and the protein manufacturing and the functional and structural proteins that are manufactured because of that are changing physiology and create symptoms. I believe today that the symptoms that we manifest and the imbalances in our physiology are correlated with some of the imbalances in our psychology. So anytime we can make an adjustment of the psychology while we're making adjustments of the physiology for the adjustment, we're enhancing the body further. And I found that when I was really present and really, really centered when I adjusted, I got the greatest results. And I believe that when I was really centered and really present, the patient actually centralized and didn't have emotional swings, and they became more present. And I believe that that was a qualitative impact on their healing, in addition to a quantitative impact with the adjustment. Jim Parker, who is the founder of the chiropractic Parker Seminars and Parker College, talked about quality and quantitative interference in chiropractic to chiropractors by the thousands. And I really saw that in reality. So I made it a point as a chiropractor that I felt it was my responsibility and accountability to maintain presence and maintain my own centered integrity when I was working to maximize the patient results. And without a doubt, the more present I was, the better the results my patients got. Because I was more in tune with what was going on, and I was more objective in my data and less subjectively biased and emotional with my own reactions. I didn't let my own personal stuff interfere with the care of the patient when I did that. So there's no doubt in my mind that our mind and our body are correlated, and that if, as a healer, as a chiropractor, we have the responsibility to maintain that centered state. Lux originally meant light. Sublux meant less than the fullness expression of light. Light stores intelligence. So we could say that a subluxation, a condition of less than the fullest expression of light or intelligence, enlightenment, is illness. And adjustment means add, which means moves to center. Just means bring to balance, and ment means the mind. So when we make an adjustment physiologically and we are centered, we make an adjustment psychologically. And the two together work correlatingly to assist the physiology to maximize in the healing process. And I believe that's our responsibility.
Yeah, and we have actually in the practice this room that's called the Lux Room, and that's where everybody goes in after they're in proper alignment. One of the concepts that I always share on my talks is that perhaps in the next 100, 200 years, the word work, job may be a different meaning or maybe not used within humans. And I always wanted to kind of ask this question to Dr. Demartini. The vision perhaps for humanity in the next 1,000 years, being inspired and just, because the whole concept of, you go to school, I think that's going to crumble. And just being inspired for what you do, creating that community with other human beings, right, to coordinate and create a human race that's really just evolving, because we're meant to really evolve. So I wanted to know what your vision was for humanity in the next 1,000 years.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I will go just a few years first. I had the opportunity to meet with a gentleman who was with Microsoft recently, who is involved in the production of the Microsoft Cloud. And he was telling me about the next decades to come. And they're right now working at being able to anticipate from neural electronics, the electroencephalographic resonance coming off the brain, to be able to anticipate people's desires before they're even conscious, and put on the internet information in front of them based on what they're unconsciously thinking about before they're even consciously aware, which is going to be even more efficient in the sales process. So that's in the next decades to come. So imagine 1,000 years from now. Imagine what we're going to be doing technologically. It's hard to even comprehend.
Yeah.
100 years ago, we couldn't comprehend where we are today.
True.
So it's not. I'm sure we will conquer space travel. I'm sure we will conquer interstellar transportation. I'm sure that we'll start thinking in terms of astronomical, possibly galactic thinking at the time. We'll probably learn from study epigenetics and genetics how to build and destroy consciously and use our own minds to change our physiology. And technologies will advance there. But we will still have the adjustment as long as we have a physical body. And the adjustment is still a mind-body dynamic, whatever our forms are. We'll probably learn how to utilize our mind to the maximum and learn how the brain works in fullest. I mean, it's hard to even comprehend where we're going to go. But I'm very inspired by it. I mean, I've watched the changes in my years. I've been around for 62, almost 63 years, and I've watched the evolution of what's going on. And I've watched it accelerate, so it's mind-boggling to think of where it's going to be over the next 1,000 years. 1,000 years is, I think that we'll be able to rebuild ourselves and deconstruct and reconstruct ourselves and remodel ourselves and put in artificial things and real things. And
I remember you had written your 1,000-year,
posthumous biography. Yes.
Right, and that's always been. I'm only up to 400. But it's really that inspired me when I heard you actually.
Well, I've actually had some of the things that I wrote that I was anticipating 1,000 years from now already happen. So I'm amazed at what can happen. You know, we go around saying we're immortal souls theologically, but very few people have immortal goals, and there's no reason why we can't create goals that are way beyond our life, because we can make a difference while we're alive that impact things way beyond our life.
That's true. And I think we are human beings having a spiritual experience, and we're also spirits having this human experience. How would you describe in your words what the spiritual, or a lot of people say, oh, I had this spiritual experience. How would you describe that whole concept and how that would be?
You mean, what is spirituality to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I believe that when a person is living congruently with what they value most, they're inspired. And spiritual experiences are unique to each individual according to their values. Some people have a high value on raising a family, and when they see a baby walk for the first time, it's an inspiring spiritual experience. Or a baby's born, possibly. Or when they get married, that could be a spiritual experience. Another person may be dedicated to running marathons. I had a gentleman I met the other day that ran 240 kilometers. 240 kilometers, non-stop, not even a break. It's almost hard to comprehend. Yeah. And that was his spiritual experience. I have other people that are dedicated to running businesses and serving vast numbers of people, and that's their spiritual experience. I have a gentleman that's climbed Mount Everest 4 times, and all the 7 other peaks twice, and hiked to the North and South Pole, and that's his spiritual experience. So I consider spirituality as whatever inspires an individual and what is most meaningful to them, and what feels that they would go and do extraordinary things to fulfill. To me, that's the spiritual experience. It could be religious for some people, but it may not be. I don't want to limit it to any religious tradition, but I don't want to exclude that either.
Right, and that spiritual essence is really exposed in all areas in our lives, right?
I believe studying the laws of the universe like Sir Isaac Newton did, he had a deep religious conviction that there was an order in the universe that he pursued to understand and explore. Swedenborg, who was another mystic who believed in the laws of the universe, that's his spiritual quest. I think that every area of life can demonstrate spirituality. I believe that everybody is spiritual in that respect.
One of the things that a lot of people say, well, I already know what I need to do. Yeah, but it's the accountability factor, right? And making sure that you're living congruent to your highest values. And if you're not, you're going to have the A, B, C, Ds of negativity and all of that. And I recently heard someone speak about the concept of when you know what you need to do and that split second of making that decision. Would you say that inner part of that brain that keeps us not being able to wake up in the morning, or you know you need to, but you don't, and you have plans that are according to your highest values, but you decide to press the snooze button, you know? And many ways, many people say nutritionally I can fix this and all this sort of. How would you kind of align to that? Is it because they're not really according to their highest values, or?
Yeah, if somebody needs to be motivated from the outside to do something, it's not what's most meaningful to them. Nobody has to get me up in the morning to do my research or to do my teachings. I haven't needed motivation for doing those things in 44 years. So if you are really setting goals that are really truly yours, or taking actions that are really congruent, you spontaneously are inspired from within. You have an intrinsic drive to do it. If you require outside incentives to do it, it must not be the highest value. You may think it is, but it's not. And many people fool themselves into saying, well, I really, really want to save my money and get wealthy, but they keep buying things that are higher on their values, which are immediate gratifying consumables. So I don't go by what people say, I go by what they live. And their life demonstrates their values. And so when you are setting goals that are congruent, you will be inspired to get up and go do it, whatever it may be. But some people have a high value on dreaming and laying in bed and dreaming. If they do, they'll stay there for hours.
Right. And I guess it really takes to that time to go through the breakthrough experience, really find out, right, what is it? Is it an altruistic approach that you're doing, and that's why you think you want to do this? So it really takes that time of effort. You got to work on it. You got to be diligent to find out exactly what it is. It's not easy.
Well, many people are subordinating to the influence of other people. Kohlberg said that most people are trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure. Then other people on top of that are trying to subordinate to mothers, fathers, and preachers and teachers. And other people on top of that are subordinating to local communities, cities, states, nation, worlds, views. And very few people stand transcendent to all that and are unborrowed visionaries and go after what they really dream. Those are the people that let the voice and the vision on the inside be louder than all opinions on the outside. Those are the people that make the change in the world. They're the 1%ers. We all have that inside us, but it's buried and covered up by all the subordinations and all the comparisons we make to other people instead of comparing our daily actions to our own dreams. So giving ourselves permission to prioritize our life, live according to what's highest on our value, allow us to be authentic, because our identity revolves around our highest value, liberates us. It also brings more objectivity to the mind, more resiliency and adaptability to environmental changes, and we have less subluxations and more lux.
Thank you so much, really, for sharing all that wisdom. I wanted to know if you had anything else to say to our audience here, and yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to share that no matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. Don't let anybody on the outside tell you you're not magnificent on the inside. Don't let the values of others interfere with your own inspiring highest values and dreams. And prioritize your life on a daily basis. Sit down and write down the highest priority actions you can do today to help you fulfill what's most meaningful to you. And stick to the highest priorities. You'll raise your self-worth, you'll accomplish more, you'll be less likely to be burdened, you'll be more resilient and adaptable, less subluxations, and you'll be able to vitalize. So when you get the adjustment, you'll keep going to new heights instead of just being normal and being average. So give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth. The real you is extraordinary.
And thank you so much, really, for taking the time and being here with us tonight. And yes, exactly what you just said is something that I've always tried to really teach my patients, teach myself, constantly, because we're always evolving. And thank you guys, really, for being here. This has been a life-changing experience for me. It's something that I've always dreamed about, and dreams come true. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you guys for listening.